Perhaps the most childish of the Marvel series is Thor. At first, I didn't watch it because I didn't think it was that kitschy. But then I watched all the Marvel movies and had fun with them. Guardians of the Galaxy is the most kitschy. It's not a bad thing. It's just a series that's been kind of disjointed from the beginning. Most of the time, you have a single protagonist and a sidekick, and it's the other way around. It's got multiple protagonists, and it's got a bunch of characters that aren't really defined. And it's got a bunch of characters that are just going to run amok. Most of the heroes in Marvel have powerful abilities, but the Guardians don't. They don't have any special powers. They don't fly. They don't have any weapons. They don't have anything special. They don't mean much on their own, but when they work together, they synergize and do amazing things. It was that synergy that brought them together to defeat Thanos, the most powerful villain in Marvel. Lately, the Marvel franchise has felt like it's lost its way. Every time I see it, it's not as good as it used to be. Guardians of the Galaxy was interesting in that regard, to start with. I think the biggest reason is that the characters that have been around since before the Endgame where they defeated Thanos are still there. Because the characters before the Endgame have pretty much left or changed. The Guardians are the same characters from before to now, and their personalities haven't changed at all. And I think that's probably why it's interesting, because they're human. The characters that Marvel has introduced lately are all over the place. They're trying to show us different characters than we've seen before, and they're giving us heroes with much greater abilities, and it's taken the humanity out of all of them. Which is weird because most of the heroes aren't human. I think it's because there's a disconnect, and the characters have lost their way. The Guardians are all more approachable and likable because they're not all superpowered. They still have the same comic book code. They're all looking out for each other. But they make fun of each other whenever they can, and I think that's what makes the series so fun to watch. The director, James Gunn, is leaving Marvel with Volume 3, and he's going to go to the other side of the fence, DC Comics, and he's going to rebuild it from the ground up as the head of DC Comics. Even though he's already done a DC Comics movie, so it's kind of fun to be traveling around the world to promote this one. The Guardian series is more fun and better because of the OST, and he said that at the end of Volume 2, they had a huge amount of songs, so this time around, they expanded into the 2000s, and they had a really hard time finding songs. I've seen a lot of movies, but I don't think I've ever seen a movie where there's almost a song at the beginning of the movie that sets up the story. It's called Creep by Radiohead, and it's an acoustic version, sung by a different singer. The main character in this installment is Rocket Bradley Cooper. The introduction shows how Rocket came into the world. Everyone says he's a raccoon, but he insists he's not, and he even hates the term, squirming and getting angry. Rocket was a creature created by the high evolutionary Chakotay Urji, who was responsible for creating various life forms and scattering them throughout the universe. He did a lot of work to create the creatures he wanted, and Rocket was one of them. For some reason, Rocket was given the ability to think and be creative. Unlike any other creature created, and the evolutionary coveted it, but he didn't know it because it had disappeared. He found out about it through Aisha Elizabeth Debicki and told her to retrieve it. Aisha's son, Adam Warlock Will Poulter, tries to retrieve it, but fails. In the process, Rocket falls into a state where he can't be revived, and it turns out there's a code in his heart, and if they can't crack it, they can't save him, so they have to go to the High Evolutionary. Then Gamora Zoe Saldana shows up, who they thought was dead, but she's actually someone else because she's from another dimension. So the Guardians regroup and go on a journey to find the code to save Rocket. Throughout the movie, Rocket is pretty much bedridden, but I say, bedridden, because we keep getting flashbacks to show us his past. Other than that, the Guardians work so well together because their comedic codes are so well matched. Drax Dave Bautista can be made fun of for being stupid and it doesn't take a toll on him. Mantis Palm Clementine has been so static in the past, but this time she's very dynamic and gets into the action. Nebula Karen Gillan, with the help of a rocket, has her arms become a variety of weapons. I miss Groot Vin Diesel in his original form, because he was so lanky, but over time he's become more Vin Diesel, so he's more action-oriented than before. In this installment, the Rockets provide more of the music than his boss, Star-Lord Chris Pratt. Star-Lord is a polite but somewhat witty character who is also a bit of a cop-out. It's a shame that this is the last installment of Guardians of the Galaxy, because he's the most definitive character in Marvel right now. It's probably because of the age of the actors, which is the biggest problem, but even so, there's no reason for them to leave when all these characters are still going strong. At the end, there are new Guardians, but it seems like a fake. It's obviously not going to be a new series again. It's ridiculous to end such a fun and delightful character here. I think what Marvel needs to find is not a hero with great powers, but a very human hero, like the characters in Guardians of the Galaxy, who are somewhat lacking in powers, but can be sympathized with while watching.